We're now going to move into a fairly kind of crucial part of the day, which is to talk about the patient registry. This is something that we've been investing a lot of time into, and that I know we talked about in perhaps less detail at the last global conference. We have a short film we're going to show, and then Robin and I, and possibly Catherine, are just going to kind of round up the work around the patient registry and why it's so vital. So we're going to start off by just showing the film first that has been produced by Alyssa Mendel at Cords, and apologies, she does mention being able to see the presentation. So apologies for that one. She'd very much hoped to be able to be with us and be able to describe those pictures. However, that wasn't possible today. So if we start the film, we can pick up on any questions that come out of that. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for having me today. My name is Alyssa Mendel, and I am the Research Project Manager for the Cords Registry at Sandford Research. This evening, I'm going to share a little bit about the Cords Registry and a little bit more about Sanford for those of you that aren't familiar. So Sanford Health is located here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So we're here in the United States. Sanford Health is a healthcare organization. As you can see here, we cover quite a large span here in the Midwest. We've got hospitals up in North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, and then clinics scattered throughout the Midwest. And you'll see there our footprint is about the size of Texas. So a very large footprint that we have. Sanford Health has been around for over 100 years now. So the healthcare system is very well established. Here's some more information too about Sanford Health. You'll see we do have clinics scattered out throughout the world as well. So we do have an international presence. And then at Sanford Health, there is a division called Sandford Research. So Sandford Research is a branch of Sanford Health, and that's where I work, is in this building that you see here on the screen. And with Sanford Research, there is the Cords Registry, and that's where the program that I work for is located. Sanford Research has a few different initiatives. One of them is in pediatrics and rare diseases. And again, that's where the Cords Registry lives under. So if you're not familiar with what a registry is, I'll share a little bit more about that today. I know it can be kind of confusing, and it can be a new concept for some people. So we try to use a patient-centered approach. So we understand that in rare diseases or rare conditions, the patients, the caregivers, you tend to be the experts in the condition, because some of these rare diseases, there's just not much known, and even sometimes medical professionals aren't aware of the ins and outs to some of these conditions. So in order to properly investigate a disease, researchers do need to have a full understanding of the natural history of a condition. So out of these two ideas, Sanford Health has sponsored the development of the registry. So again, what is a registry? I'll be talking a little bit about that today. So a registry can be, a collection of data captured regarding a group of patients. This can include, demographic information, health information, quality of life information. It can be patient or clinician entered. It really depends on the type of registry. And a registry serves as a way to contact members of a group later on. So think about if there becomes a clinical trial available for your type of condition, Cords is able to contact you and let you know about it, or it can also simultaneously serve to build up the story of the progression of a disease. And that's where that natural history component comes in, where that helps researchers to know what is going on. So what is Cords? So Cords is a patient registry for all rare diseases and conditions. So we are disease and condition agnostic. We also take information on carriers of these rare conditions and the undiagnosed. And so we tie together patients and advocacy groups such as Alstrom United Kingdom and also researchers. So unlike other registries, Sanford Health sponsors CORDS. We are made available at no cost. So there's no cost to patients, there's no cost to advocacy groups, and there's no cost to researchers. We are free, and we plan on always being free. So patients and families can complete a questionnaire. So CORDS has worked very closely with Alstrom UK to create a great questionnaire that asks specifics about Alstrom disease or Alstrom syndrome. So in this questionnaire, there's going to be some very detailed questions asking about this condition. This again helps researchers to understand what is going on with this condition. So participants can enroll by completing their questionnaires and keeping their record updated. Researchers and clinicians can go on and apply for access to the de-identifiable data from the questionnaires that participants complete. So here is a quick snapshot of what CORDS, some metrics for CORDS. So you'll see there's 86 different advocacy groups we have partnered with. We've got over 13,000 some participants in the registry, and you'll see we have a very large international presence with over 70 some different countries that we represent. So the majority of rare diseases do not have a registry, and many disease cohorts don't even have a community yet. And so CORDS helps connect patients' natural history study with researchers and clinicians. A big question that we get often is who owns the data? So participants, they are the primary owners of the data because they get to control how the data is ultimately used. You can share whether or not you want, or you can give permission to share your data with an advocacy group if you would like. You certainly don't have to, though. You also have the ability as a participant to let CORDS know if you want to remove all of your data. If that's the case, then we will take everything out of the database and there won't be any history of you ever enrolling in CORDS. It's a fairly easy process if you were to ever want to remove your data. So CORDS does store and manage the information, and this is required by the Sandford Research Institutional Review Board. So the Institutional Review Board here in the United States is what governs whether or not research or a clinical trial can even start. So CORDS is an IRB approved study, which also is very beneficial for when researchers want to come and look through data, just knowing that the data was collected in or through an IRB. So CORDS will never sell, excuse me, CORDS will never sell, rent, or lease personal information. Information in CORDS remains there, again, unless a participant would like it removed, as I was saying earlier. Data can be used, researchers, they can petition to use the data or the de-identified data, so can pharmaceutical companies. And then again, patient advocacy groups, they're able to also view the data from participants who give permission for them to use the data. New discoveries are made based on the information contained in the natural history of the disease. And so, as I was saying earlier, oftentimes patients and caregivers, you're the ones who know your story the best, and you own your story. So by sharing your story, scientists and doctors, they do learn more about how to approach rare disease research and even hopefully finding some treatments. So here is a snapshot of how many people are currently enrolled in CORDS who have Alstrom syndrome. You'll see there's about 52 people. This is the ages of people who are enrolled in the database. You can see there's kind of in the pie chart the different categories. And this is something that you would see too if you enrolled in CORDS with your account that you would have. You would be able to view some of these demographics in the portal. This also shows how many males and females have completed this question. And so by now you might be wondering, how can you enroll? So I'll make sure to send the link to Catherine so she can share it with you, but it's a really easy process. So once you click that link, there's some basic information that we're going to ask you to have in order to create your account. Of course, if you don't want to do it online, you can do it through postal mail, and we can mail you a questionnaire and we can do all of that data entry for you. Or on the flip side, we can also email you a questionnaire too, and you can email it back to us. This will be the screen that you would see once you complete that activation form and create an account if you chose online. Right here under the rare disease diagnosis, this would say Alström syndrome, and then you would just proceed through the screens that it takes you through. And once you are enrolled, you should receive this thank you screen, but you won't see this thank you screen until you complete the Alström syndrome UK questionnaire. And then this is the home screen that you would see in your portal. So here, as I was showing you earlier, there's the view of the graphs that you're able to look at. You can also come over here to see the history of all of the times you have completed a questionnaire, because remember, in order to really help researchers get a good idea of what's going on, you should be coming into the registry, year after year, even maybe month after month if symptoms are changing. That's helpful information to show the progression of the condition. There's also the ability to upload any documents if you want to upload any genetic reports or any other information that you feel would be important to share. So wrapping up here this evening, CORDS is 100% free of charge for all participants. Information from the CORDS registry enables scientists to steer their research in the direction of discoveries. Patients, advocacy groups, and researchers are all brought to one location to combine their strengths. And again, please remember, CORDS costs nothing but the time it takes to complete that questionnaire. And I should say too, you don't have to complete your questionnaire in one sitting. You can maybe answer a couple questions and then come back in the next day and answer a couple more. It'll just take you right where you left off. And if you have time, please feel free to check out our podcast. We host different researchers and advocates each month that talk about their rare disease journey and just share other helpful information. If you do have any questions, you can always reach out to me, or you can reach out to CORDS. Our email address is cords@sanfordhealth.org. We're more than happy to help walk you through the questionnaire if you need help completing it, or just even setting up an account. We're always here to help. I thank you again for listening to more about CORDS and learning about Sanford Health.
Perfect. Thank you to CORDS for that. You will find much deeper and further information on the AS UK website, along with a more in-depth film that AS UK have put together that takes you through each step and will probably answer most questions that people have about the registry. The intention of working with CORDS is to ensure it's secure, your information is anonymous, where needed, you can decide what goes in there. And in many ways, it gives you the opportunity to put all of the medical information that you want to put in. You can remain completely anonymous. So you're kind of in control of what information you're putting into that database. It has a number of questions, and you can skip questions or come back to questions. And the whole kind of aim, the purpose of it is to try and almost build a giant filing cabinet on Alström so that we can all learn together as much as possible about Alström syndrome. This is very rare and it's very complex. The better informed we can all be, and that information is secure, the more we can try and act as a catalyst for research and for trials. I'm going to invite Robin to just kind of update us or tell us a little bit more about how we've been working together to try and ensure that we can reach more globally with people with Alström and families. But I'm actually looking at my screen and I'm not sure Robin's still with us.
I am.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
Right here, top right-hand corner.
Lovely. Would you like to kind of say a few words in terms
I
of...
would. You just referred to think of it as file cabinets. Well, I happen to be harboring all of the file cabinets, all of which are full with very challenging questionnaires, literally hundreds of them, that were developed in the early years of ASI. The information contained within was analyzed by Jan, ultimately entered into something called spreadsheets. Not a whole lot of help from computers in the early days, and that is the information that laid the foundation to grow the definition of Alström syndrome and change the face of how it was understood and how it was treated. And I'm thinking back really quickly. Alström treated his first Alström patient in Sweden in 1948. I have good reason to know that was 73 years ago. In 1959, he finally wrote the first paper. In 1974, they figured out that the liver was involved. Jackson Lab began its work in 91. And if you think about it, those of you who are old enough, we still were not using computers at all the way we use them today. And there was no such thing as a registry available. In 93, finally figured out progressive kidney problems. And in 1995, we have the first conference in Bellevue, Nova Scotia, for 5 families and only 7 children. So we've come a very long way in a short time, but the distance we've traveled was so incredibly dependent on the willingness of families to sit down and take the time to share the information that only they had to share. And I happen to have gotten very sick with congestive heart failure, secondary to dilated cardiomyopathy, in 1996. And shortly thereafter, Jan asked me if I would help in reviewing this 47-page, I think, questionnaire on 8.5 by 17 inches paper that drove people crazy finishing. But that's when I realized that there was a problem with dilated cardiomyopathy and Alström syndrome, because I had just been through it and I was reading the clues that people had volunteered in that questionnaire. Now, I won't belabor the point, but Jan and some of you remember this. Some of you have probably tried very hard to forget it, but every single conference, she handed out packet after packet after packet of specialty questionnaires on vision, on growth and development, on delay, on this, on that, and everything. And that information got translated into scientific paper by Jan and her collaborators at Jackson Lab, and an early on, very young Italian guy that I first called Petro Maffei. And that would be our very own Pietro Maffei here with us today. And he became a key member of that early team. And he took what he learned there and he turned it into clinical treatment for patients in Italy. Early on, Kay Parkinson, Matthew, and Charlotte came to those conferences. They filled out those questionnaires. They sent them in. Their information became key to understanding more of the phenotypes in Alström syndrome. So in those days, nobody got handbooks. Nobody went to the web page and got bombarded with all of this information all at once. But I honestly have to say, I don't think there was one single person who declined to fill out those questionnaires. And those early questionnaires, most of which I still have, led the way. The next step, if we want to keep growing, if we want to eventually cure this disease, has to be these registries, which are evolving themselves all of the time. And I think we want to take a close look at what we can all do to make that contribution, help in any way we can, perhaps make it the global Alström questionnaire, just so people don't think that it's only intended for people in the UK, in the same way that the registry that ASI established with Genetic Alliance, which is based on this side of the pond, was only for Americans. It's not, it wasn't, and it was early on in the game, developed more than a decade ago initially, and it doesn't fill the bill anymore. It needs to be updated. Alström UK has done that. I admire this organization, Alström UK, more than anything I've encountered in the rare disorder world, and I've spent nearly 3 decades in that world. So I implore you, wherever you be in the world, to take the time, find the person you need to help you translate it, get the help you need to fill it out, and get it done soon. Because the sooner you do, the sooner you greatly improve the chances that we will indeed find a cure. There are lots of wonderful things happening in the world because there are lots of scientists jumping in. Jan's early work, without which we couldn't have gotten where we are today, needs to grow and justify the time, the effort, the sacrifice she made. So we can do it. So let's do it. And you'll get all the help you need from Alström UK. You'll get all the help you need from me. You'll get all the help you need from every national organization that exists. If you filled out the ASI registry, which was called Alström Research Connect, that had lots of problems because we were the first to set up a registry in that particular, under that particular opportunity. And we ended up with so many software problems, it caused so much trouble with the data that I think you don't think that you've completed it because you did that. Start from scratch with this new opportunity with CORDS. And I could not endorse it more fully, and I could not be more grateful that it exists to help us all move forward. So at some point, drop by drop, a lake is formed. These are all drops for the significant advances we've made. I want to see the lake. Let's get the lake done. So thank you all of you, for being here today.
Perfect. Thank you, Robin.
You are welcome.
And of course, we are indebted to you and to Jan for the extraordinary, and others in the beginning of the extraordinary work that has been done. And it is only on the kind of the shoulders of giants that we're able to be able to bring together now and create, with your help, Global Alström. So, you know, huge thank you to all of you. And I keep promising to come over and collect those files from you so that we type them in. An invite anytime. Okay, so I'm just trying to keep us on track a little bit. We've put the details of the patient registry into the chat box, and you'll also find it on our website too. So I think it kind of remains for me to do a kind of brief roundup and get some information from you too, if possible. But just before I do that, can I request that Laura shows us some of the illustrations, please, that she's been working on? Are you with us, Laura?
Yes, I am here. Yes.
Okay.
Give me a second.
Ah.
We lost connection. Hang on, I've just got to connect it.
No worries.
Okay.
So these illustrations will be shared widely, and you know, we're very happy for you to use different things. It's to very much capture today and just to describe some of the conversations and the presentations that have gone on.
Okay, so this was the latest discussion. I've drawn the filing cabinet, bursting at the seams and interacting. I've got a few questions I need to get some answers to clarify some of what was being said, but I've tried to emphasize how it all works and putting all learning together as a big sort of banner that will be there a bit more.
Okay, I can't actually see that, Laura. I don't know if can.
I've just asked you to share your video, Laura, because we can't see anything on the screen
hang on,
at the minute.
Sorry, it's
there
me.
we go.
I beg your pardon. Sorry. It's because
No,
I didn't have my video switched on. You can pin it for everyone if you want to.
There we go. So it's nice and big for us.
How's that? Is that better?
Brilliant. Thank you, Laura.
Well, I've just got Catherine's face.
What?
It's not the look I want.
Can you not see it big on your screen?
No.
No.
I can just see you.
Oh.
Can you pin it for all participants? I think that's the thing, or spotlight, is it called?
Yeah, we've got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just quite nice to revisit this and think about what we've been doing today, particularly the endpoint of registry, the collection of the data. We've got 52 participants who've already completed the data, so some to go, but made a great start. It's very easy to take part. And, you know, that question that many patients ask us, how many people are there in the world with Ulstrom? Or the right word, but lots of parents ask and lots of adults with AS ask, which is how many people are there? And we don't know, we can't answer those questions. But if we could get this registry completed as far and wide as possible, those are some of the sort of questions that we could ask, we could answer, and we could build on some of those questions. Okay, so thank you very much for that. It remains for me to try just do a very brief roundup for everybody. We did agree that we're going to try and finish at 7:30. Thank you for that, Laura.
You're welcome.
The trials, as far as we know, trying to push ahead with those, acting as a catalyst. Very much want to try and collaborate together and make links globally and kind of locally. Of course, some countries are better served than others. So whatever we're learning in the States, whatever we're learning in the UK, whatever we're learning in Italy, is to try and share that as widely as possible. We're very keen to continue this work, possibly in a series of webinars, and we'd really welcome your thoughts around themes and topics that you'd like to hear more about. Certainly listening to the thinking around the sight and ophthalmology, that seems to me to be a very helpful webinar that we could run. There's quite a lot of questions that have come up about education, primary and secondary, or high school and colleges and universities, that we could do a webinar around, dependent on what your thoughts are. So we'd really welcome some of those topics. We've had a few changes at AS UK, some of you may be aware of. Kerry Leeson Beavers, who many of you know, has a son with Alstrom, has become the new chief exec. So I'm going to get her to do a final few words shortly. But just before that, I'd like to say one of the things we'd like to do in 2022, and this has come from one of our families, is to have a kind of celebration. And we're suggesting it's the 3rd of May in 2022, and start to build a World Alstrom Syndrome Day. We're using that date because it would be Carl Henry Alstrom was born in Sweden on the 3rd of May 1907. So a way of, I guess, celebrating. And I don't know how you feel about today. We've had some fantastic presenters, but I'm always inspired by people's personal stories, and those parents who are, you know, just phenomenal. And of course, the individuals that we've heard from today with Alstrom, who are doing just fantastic, living their best life, as somebody pointed out a little earlier. So it remains for me to thank all presenters, and of course to thank the AS UK team. These things take a fair amount of work in the background. So big thank you to them, particularly to Catherine, who we kind of couldn't manage without, who kind of puts together the IT for us and makes sure it all runs to time and runs very smoothly. So big thank you to you, Catherine. So a few final words. I will pass over to AS UK's new chief exec, Kerry.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Anne. I wanted to say a big thanks to you, Anne. I know you've done a lot of work recently about, you know, to bring the Alstrom global community together, looking at what we can do to support families, you know, wherever they are, and how we can link and collaborate with other organisations and professionals around the world. I think one of the key things for Alstrom Syndrome UK is that we really value collaboration, and we really value working with others to share what we know and what we've learned along the way, but also to learn from other people as well. I think we're so much stronger together. And I think for me, moving forward with AS UK, it's to build on the great work of Anne, and with an exceptional team at AS UK. We've got some fabulous staff, but we've got some fabulous families as well. And I think it's important to me that we keep people affected by Alstrom syndrome, families, carers, at the heart of everything we do at AS UK, and making sure that we're delivering what people need and what people say they need, rather than what we assume they need. So that involvement of our families will always be central to anything that we do. But I think also looking forward and feeling positive about the research that, you know, we've got some great scientists, researchers, clinicians throughout the world. And, you know, and we're fortunate to have the team in the UK as well. So I think working together, you know, people sharing their information. Every time we meet a new family with Alstrom syndrome, we learn something new. So I think I feel really encouraged today, listening to the developments in China and in Palestine. So I think, you know, working together, I think we're going to achieve so much more. So the future's bright. And I think, but one of the things, the main thing I will take away from this conference is yesterday's session, really, you know, people being together, no matter where they are. You know, often people feel alone. But I think hopefully after this weekend, you know, one thing I said yesterday is that I hope people leave this conference feeling that they're not on their own, feeling really part of the Alstrom community, and that's kind of positive that I'm leaving with. So keep in touch, and I really look forward to seeing what the future brings.
Thank you, Kerry. So we will be doing some follow-up in the new year, so that everybody gets a good Christmas and gets a break and gets some holiday, because I don't think anybody's stopped working for some time. It's been non-stop. So brilliant. Thanks, guys. Great to meet you. Lovely to meet new families and old families, dare I say that. And a big thank you to Robin and of course everyone else who has made such a phenomenal contribution. Big thanks. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. Good night.
Bye-bye. Good night. Good night.
Thanks, Archana.
Thanks, Palmer. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Laura.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Pietro.
Pietro.